Hello friends, this is the fourth lecture of this chapter production function, and in the three lecture we have discussed many points, and let's see what are the different points that we already have discussed in this chapter. So we have discussed about production and types of production function, law of variable proportion. Then we also have seen these points and the graphs, explanation of the law, then assumptions of the law of diminishing returns, and then explanation of the same law, then illustration of the law. After that, we have seen this table and the graph over here. Then we also have seen the causes and assumptions of the law. After that, we have seen the law as applied to other product agencies like mining, building activity, fishing industries, in manufacturing industries, and then we have discussed importance of that law, then returns to scale, and in the returns to scale we have seen three different things, that increasing returns to scale, diminishing returns to scale, and constant returns to scales. And in that thing we have also seen causes of increasing returns, causes of constant return, and causes of decreasing return. After that we have discussed internal and external economies, and we also have seen types of internal economies, and um, we will see that types of external economies. In the external economies there are three different points that we already have discussed, and today we will start our lecture with relations between internal and external economies. So guys, in our previous lecture at last I have already discussed about what is internal economies and what is external economies. Economies is a kind of advantage that company will get, or we can say a firm will get from the expansion. So guys, let's see what is written here. It would be useful here to note that there is no clear cut demarcation between internal and external economies. What are considered as external economies at one time maybe become internal economies at another time if several firms unite with one another. External economies are not different in kind from the internal economies. For example, one of the external economies is the growth of new firms to utilize the byproducts of the main industry. But if the industry itself begins to utilize its byproduct, it will lead to internal economies. Again, there may be instance where internal economies enjoyed by a firm in one industry may become external economies to the other by a firm in one industries may become external economies to the other industry. Now, guys, we will see, for example, where a textile machinery manufacturing units expand in size and thereby lowers its cost of production. We shall say that it is securing internal economies, but for the textile industry, it would mean external economies because the industry now gets its requirement at a low price. In short, whether particular economies are internal or external simply depends upon what operation is it is profitable to combine under a single management. So guys, here again I will say that what is internal and what is external economies means when a firm or company decide to expand their business, when all the factors of production will be increased, then there will be two different kind of advantage will be got by the firm. That when the expansion happens, whatever the advantage will a company get will be known as internal economies, but whatever the advantage the whole industry get will be known as external economies. And here we have seen the explanation as well as the example of the relation between internal and external economies. In this explanation we can clearly understand that at some point of time it might be the internal economies, but after some period of time it will be also the external economies. So internal economies and external economies are bothly interconnected to each other, that for some point of view it is considered as an internal economies, but it will also can be considered as an external economies also. So how they are connected, for that we have also have seen two different examples of textile industries. And now we will move further and see advantages of large scale production. So what are different advantages of large scale production? So guys, a large scale production is also a kind of, we can say, economies, because here we are talking about large scale production. So when we consider, or we can say when we say the term expansion, it means it is about something, it is something about the economies. So guys, let's see, as a firm expand in size and increases its scale of production, it secures certain advantage or economies, which are known as advantages or economies of large scale production. These can convincingly be divided into two parts. So guys, as I have already told you that whenever we talk about expansion, you just need to understand that whatever the advantage company will get from the expansion, it is known as economies. So economies is a similar word of advantages. And as we have already read that there are two different we can say we can say the advantages of large scale production can be conveniently divided into two different parts, A and B. Let's see what are those. So A, those advantages or economies which are special to each firms, is such advantages are known as internal economies, and those advantages or economies which are common to all the firms in the industry, these are known as external economies. So guys, what is internal economies, what is external economies, that we already know it very well, that when the advantages is only limited to one, or we can say a certain firm or a single firm, it is known as internal economies. Then but when the advantage is we can say considered for, or we can say when this advantage is available for all the firms, all the same kind of firms, then we can say it is the advantage for the whole industry, then it is known as external economies. So guys, we have already discussed these economies in detail, and therefore it is not necessary to repeat the same here. Now we will see guys internal diseconomies. Meanwhile, we are discussing about economies. Now we will discuss about diseconomies. Means what? Means when a firm expands its business, when a firm increase its all factors of production, then what are those different disadvantages that a firm get? Then let's see. It should, however, be remembered that there are certain limits to the advantages of large scale production. The various internal and external economics can be realized by a firm only up to certain limit, because if this were not so, a firm would continue definitely to expand its scales of production. But we find that real life it is not so. Beyond a certain point, the firm does not expand and increase its production, because further expansion results not in economies but in diseconomies of scale. These diseconomies of scale, or what may be called as the limits to large scale production, may briefly be discussed as follows. So guys, as we have meanwhile, or we can say till now, we are discussing that internal economies and external economies. But guys, in that internal economies and external economies, we were discussing that when company or when a single firm expands its business, there are different advantages that a company will get from the expansion. But after a certain point of time, when company does the expansions, or we can say when company does the expansions beyond the limit, then there are some disadvantages also that company need to face. So company can expand its business up to certain point, but from that certain point, company cannot go that beyond that point of the capacity of the expansion. So guys, we need to understand that what are the different disadvantages that a particular firm can get from the production. Let's see. The first one is technical diseconomy. In the first place, economies of large and specialized machinery and division of labor do not continue indefinitely. After a certain stage it is reached, further production does not lead to any technical economies. This is because of the fact that even the largest and most specialized machinery has a fixed capacity up to which it will work most efficiently and economically. For example, if an electricity generating plant has the optimum capacity of 10 lakh kilowatt power, it will have the lowest cost per unit when it generates 10 lakh kilowatt power. But beyond this point, technical economies will stop and technical diseconomies will result. So guys, when a company expands its business, company need to understand that there are some capacity of the machines and other technical things. So up to that point, up to that capacity level, it is okay to do the expansion of the business. But beyond that point company will definitely get diseconomies in the result. So when a company go beyond that capacity point, there will be more cost and low, we can say company will not get favorable result when it goes beyond that capacity level. So it is a technical diseconomies of the expansions. Company need to do the expansions up to the capacity level, but it should not go beyond the capacity level for the expansion. So we can say that technical diseconomies is a very important and very understandable point for the for any firm to do to take this point into the consideration for the expansion. Now guys, we will see second point, that is managerial diseconomies. As the firm expand in size and increases its scales of products, and it will find that beyond a certain stage there arise difficulties of management and effective supervision. Guys, you need to understand and you need to focus on these two terms. When company expand its business, when there is an expansion in the size of the business, it will be difficult for the manager to manage all the company's operation, and also there will be difficulty in the supervision. For example, with every increase in the scales of production, new department and sections are set up, requiring more and more people on the administrative side. There is further extensions of the division of labor, with the result that the task of coordinating the activities of the various departments and exercising necessary control over the large number of employees become very difficult, because when you expand your business you need to hire more and more employees as well as labor, and you also need to create new departments and also start new supervising work. So when company expands, or we can say when a firm expands, it will be very difficult for the manager to manage all the things and all the operation in the company. So again, we can say control over the large number of employees become very difficult. Personal interest and supervision become rather impossible. The task of supervision had to be entrusted to paid men who may have not the necessary knowledge and experience, and may not take the same personal interest in the business. In short, after a particular stage of production, even the most capable entrepreneur will find that further expansions will be diminish its income by increasing total cost more than his total receipts. So guys, this is how the managerial diseconomies come into the market, or we can say come into the existence when company expands its business beyond the capacity level. Now guys, there are third diseconomies is marketing diseconomies. When the firm expands in size and increase its scale of production, it will find that after a certain stage there are difficulties of marketing. The cost of transporting the raw material from distant places and the sale of finished goods to far off centers would raise because of distance involved. Besides in we can say what different things is written here. Besides in the sale the increased the total sale increased production, the firm has to spend more money on sales organization, publicity, advertisements. All this expenditure after a certain stage may um, increase rapidly, that it further expansion may become unprofitable. So guys, when company expands, the production of the company will also be expanded, and for do more production it need to get raw material from distant places. And also when company does more production, when the production is more, company also need to do more marketing activity, more promotional activity, more advertisement activity to do the selling more. And in order to increase the sale, company need to do much more expenses, and for that the we can say expansions may become unprofitable, because to do more selling, company need to expense on the advertisement, company need to expand on the promotional activity, publicity activity. So guys, in this way, to do more selling, the cost of the selling will be increased, and this is how it will be marketing these economics of the expansion. Now the fourth point, that is difficulties of advertisement with changes in demand. difficulties of adjustment with changes in demand. An important limitation of large scale production is that if the demand for the product changes, say either because of changes in fashions, taste, preference, or income of the customers or consumers, it is not so easy for the firm to adjust its production to change in demand. This is because the organization, plant, and equipment of a large firm highly specialized. It therefore finds it difficult to adapt itself to new and change conditions of demand. This fact thus sets a limit to growth of the firm. So, guys, when a company do the production on a higher scale, or we can say on a large scale, and when the demand changes, when the demand of the product changes in the market, then it will be very difficult for the company to change its production process to do the adjustment with the demand in the market. So this will also be the diseconomies, or we can say the disadvantage of large scale production, or we can say the expansion. Now guys, we will see increased price of the factor of production. As the firm continues to increase its scales of production, it will find that after a certain stage it is not able to get the adequate supply of the various factors of the production which it needs. There arises the scarcity of one or the other factor, or it so happens that the firm has to pay a high price for the different factors of the production in the form of increased rent, wages, interest, high price of raw material, etc. This increases the cost of production, puts a limit to the expansion of the firm. Now, guys, here this point is also valid, because in this point we are given the explanation like when company expands its business, when company expand, or we can say increase its production, company need to have more factors of the production, and uh, by doing more or we can say large scale of production, company needs more factors of the production, and when company need more factors of the production, we can say scarcity will be arise, scarcity of the production factors will be arise. Company will not get enough or enough and adequate labors, company will not get enough raw material, company will not get enough capital. So we can say the scarcity of the factors of the production arises, and when the scarcity arises, the price of the factors of the production increases, and by the price of the factors of the products increases, it will affect on the cost of the production, and by increasing the cost of the production, it will also increase the price of the product in the market. So when price increased in the price of the product increase in the market, people will not be ready to buy your product, and by this way, this will also be the disadvantages of the expansion. And now, guys, we will see external diseconomies. Meanwhile, we are just discussing about internal diseconomies, means what are the disadvantages that a company or a single firm gets. But now we will discuss the external diseconomies, means what are those different disadvantages that the whole industry will face. What is the difference between a firm and the industry, that I already have discussed with you, that firm is a single unit or a single company, but industry means all, or we can say a group of firm or a group of company who is producing a same kind of product is known as industry. So in the industry there is a group of companies. For example, toothpaste industry means each and every company who produce toothpaste will be considered in the industry. And we can say biscuit industry, or we can say noodles industry, or we can say soap industry. So guys, in such kind, all the companies, or we can say all the firms who produce such kind of product or the same kind of product known as industry. So in the external diseconomies, we need to discuss about what a whole industry, or we can say what kind of disadvantages a whole industry need to face. Let's see. Just as beyond a certain stage, when a firms expand in size and increase its scales of production, there arise diseconomies for it. In the same way, beyond a certain stage, too much concentration and localization of industries creates diseconomies, which may be known as external diseconomies. These are mainly of the following types. So guys, now we need to discuss about external diseconomies. In the external diseconomies, the first is the difficulty associated with transportation. When a number of firms are located in a particular area, considerable pressure is put on the transport system. There arise transport bottlenecks and delayed in the matter of getting raw material and sending the finished products. So guys, what is the meaning of industry? Industry means the group of firms who are producing the same kind of product. So guys, when the industry expands means all the firms who are producing same kind of product expands, there need to have a good and a sound we can say transportation facility. But by expansions of all such kind of firms, there will be traffic in the transportation facility. So company, or we can say a firm, will not get enough transportation facility, and we can say adequate transportation facility. So there will be delay in getting raw material, and also there will be waiting, or we can say delay to send the finished goods. Now the second is expansion of industry in a particular area leads to high rents and high costs. Now guys, expansion of industry in a particular area will also leads to high rents. So rent of the land, rent of the houses will be, or will also be increased, and company need to face the problem of increased cost or a high cost. Now guys, we will see indiscriminate concentration of industries has given rise to the evils of the factory system. Thus, for example, air pollution resulting from the smoke of the chimneys has an adverse effect on the health of the people. Industrial congregation, overcrowding, global warming, rise of slums, પછી insanitary surroundings, as also the moral and physical evils connected with its industrial unrest leading to strikes or lockouts, etc., are the results of factory system and may be regarded as external diseconomies. So guys, as the factories, as the companies, as the firm expands its business, there will be adverse effect on the society also, adverse effect on the environment also, because this is how we can we already have seen that the smoke released from the chimneys of the factories, then overcrowding, global warming, rise of slums. So this kind of basic problem, or we can say challenges, will need to face by the people of the country. So this is how it is also considered as a diseconomies, or we can say disadvantages of the expansion of the business. So guys, till now we are discussing about internal and external diseconomies, and now we will move further to isochorns. We need to understand that what is isochorns, how does it important, and what are the different things are considered in this point. So guys, let's see. In the chapter on indifference curves, we develop an indifference schedule which represented different combination of two commodities yielding the same level of satisfaction to consumer. The same techniques can be applied to construct production indifference curves or isochorns. So guys, isochorn is also known as production indifference curve, as every point of an indifferent count shows the same level of satisfaction. So also very every point on the isocount would indicate the same amount of production. So guys, isocount means there are different proportion of the factors of the production who gives us the same amount of production, or we can say the same unit of the production. Therefore, an isocount is also called an equal product curve. So guys, this can be asked in your MCQ question, that isocount is also known as dash. So you need to remember this, that isocount is also known as equal product curve. Let assume, so guys, here we are given the example. Let's see what is there in the example. Let us assume that there are two factors of production, namely land and labor. We can convince, we can conceive of a number of combination of these two factors which would yield the same amount of production. Since these factors are assumed to be substitutes to some extent and divisible, we can construct an imaginary table indicating various combinations of two factors yielding the same amount of production. So guys, here we are given the example. Here we are given the combination, land unit, labor unit, production unit, and marginal rate of technical substitution. So guys, here we have taken 20 units of land and 1 unit of labor, and we are getting 25 units of production. Now in the combination 2b, we have given we have taken 15 units of land and 2 units of labor, and we are getting 25 units of total production. And here we have the marginal rate of technical substitution is 5 jam 1. Then in the third combination, we have taken 11 units of land and 3 units of labor. And by this combination, we also get 25 units of total production, and the marginal rate of technical substitution is 3 gem, 4 gem 1. By this way, till in the last in the combination E, we have taken 6 units of land and 5 units of labor. And in this combination, we can produce 25 units of the production. And here, um, uh, the marginal rate of technical substitution is 2 gem 1, or we can say 2 raised to 1. So guys, this is what here are the different combination available. And when we take 20 units of land and 1 unit of labor, or we take 8 units of land and 4 units of labor, we will get the same amount, or we can say the same or equal quantity of the production. So plotting the points in the diagram with land and labor on the y-axis and x respectively, we get an isocont as shown in figure 1. So guys, here we have taken on the labor is taken on the x-axis and land is taken on the y-axis. And here we can see that for one unit of labor, we need to take 20 units of land, and we will get the production that will be equal for all the situation from A to E, that will be 25. So this is what this conveys us the meaning, that this gives us the explanation that by any of this combination we will get the equal quantity of the production. Here we are given the explanation of above diagram. Let's see in figure 7, IP is an isocont showing various combination of land and labor which yield production of 25 units. Isocont has the same shape as an indifference curve. It is downward sloping and convex to the origin. It may be noted that the marginal rate or technical substitutions of labor uh, for land for labor is diminishing as one moves from left to right. And the isoconts, less and less number of units of land are sacrificed for every additional unit of labor in order to produce the same amount of output. This is so because land and labor are not perfect substitutes of each other. One significant difference between the indifference curve and isoconts is that in case of the former, we are not sure of the exact level of satisfaction because it cannot be measured. But in case of the latter, that is an isocont or an equal product curve, we can express the exact level of output. For example, 25 units in our illustration. So guys, here we are given different combination. If you take only 15 unit of labor and 2 employees, then there will be the production of 25 units. So you can choose any one of these combination and you will get the equal quantity of the production. So company will decide that which of these two is quite cheaper. If labor are cheaper than the land, then company will use more labor and less land. But if land is cheaper than labor, then company will use more land and less labor. So company will choose the less costly combination of these, and then he decide to implement the production operation by this combination. So guys, this is what all about the explanation of isocont. Now we will move further and see that what is given next. It is possible to construct production in different schedule showing higher level of production than the one we have just seen. For example, if we begin with 20 units of land and 2 units of labor instead of 20 units of land and 1 unit of labor, the production would be more than 25 units. Similarly, 20 units of land and 3 units of labor would produce till more. We may construct 3 such production in different schedule and plot the points in a diagram so as to get a map of isoconts or equal product curve. So guys, again, we are given two different example over here, that land and labor, production, land and labor, production, land and labor, production. So guys, here we are given the different data that when we take 20 unit of land and 1 unit of labor, we will get 25 unit of production. So this thing we already have seen. Now we will move further. When we will take 20 units of land and 2 units of labor, we will get 30 units of production. And when we will take 20 units of land and 3 units of labor, then we will get 35 units of production. So as we are given the whole data over here, we will see what does that mean in figure 8. So guys, we are given the figure 8. This is figure 7 and this is figure 8. So figure 8 is given below actually. Let's see. Okay, this is figure 8. So in figure 8, a higher isocont shows higher level of production like two indifference curves. Two isoconts do not intersect each other. An isocont would be a downward sloping straight line if the land and labor were perfectly substitutes of each other. Similarly, if they were perfectly complementary to each other, the isocont would be right angle to the origin. The fact that most factors are imperfect substitutes of each other makes isocont convex to the origin. So guys, here we are given three different lines, and in three different lines we can clearly see that this is the line by which we will get 25 units of the production. But as we have increased in the units of land and in the units of labor, we will get 30 units of the total production. And as when we increase the land units of land and units of labor, we will get 35 units of the production. Now we can see clearly over here, this is the first line, this is the second line, and this is the third line. So how can we get 25 units of the production? How can we get the 30 units of the production? And how can we get 35 units of the production? So these are the combination that are given over here, and these are the numbers which conveys us the meaning that how much production can we get by using this kind of combination. So guys, all the data that are given in that table will just shown here in this diagram. So guys, not that a firm or a producer would like to move on to a higher isocont in preference to the lower one, but unless we know the total outlay of the firm and the prices of the two factors, we cannot say which particular combination would be given would given the maximum profit to the firm. So guys, this is what about isocont. Now we need to understand about the characteristics of the isoconts. So we will see the characteristics of the isoconts in the next lecture.